Welcome to Face, the program
that frontally discusses
political and social issues in Nigeria. The weekly program brought to you on Wednesday by 6 p.m. Nigerian time, anchored by Prince Ewemade Concourse, powered by GCSDN.
Join us.
Good evening from my side. Good morning, good afternoon, depends on the part of the continent that you are joining this program from today. Our today's topic is the coup in Niger Republic. What extent should other countries be involved? And I'm going to be joined by two panelists, but I think I have one of them at the moment. But before I bring them to the studio so we can dive into the discussion for today, I'm just going to run a quick video clip on the recent coup d'etat in Niger Republic in the West Africa country.
They said they've dissolved the constitution in the West African country, suspended all institutions, and closed the country's borders. Protests erupted in the streets in response to the attempt to overthrow the government. The country's president, Mohamed Bazoum, was detained by troops from the Presidential Guard on Wednesday, although the soldiers made no mention of him in their announcements.
This day, July 23rd, 2023, we, the Defense and Security Forces, meeting within the National Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland, have decided to put an end to the regime you know. This follows the continuing deterioration of the security situation and poor economic and social governance. Reaffirming our commitment to respecting all commitments entered into by Niger, we reassure the national and international community that the physical and moral integrity of the authorities will be respected in accordance with the principle of human rights.
Well, the apparent coup attempt has drawn strong international condemnation. The French Foreign Minister condemned, quote, all attempts to take power by force. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken also denounced the situation, making these comments during a visit to New Zealand.
Yes, recent coup in Niger Republic. Before Niger Republic, it was Burkina Faso, Mali, and Guinea. The recent wave of coup in this part of West Africa country has really called for concern. And we as West African, we also a bit concerned being the fact that these countries are neighbors to my country, Nigeria, and other sub-West Africa country like Ghana and others. I'm going to bring one of the guest panelists to the studio so we can continue the conversation. Mr. Akiaba Ada, you are welcome to the studio, sir. I can hear you. Can you turn on your audio? Yeah, check your audio. I'm sure you probably didn't connect with your audio. Yeah, try to see if you can connect your audio. I can see you, but I can't hear you. Okay, I'll try and fix that. I'll come back to you again. I think we have our other brother. Hello, can you hear me now? I can hear you now. Check the audio. Check, maybe you didn't connect with the audio when you connected to the studio. Check your audio. You might have to log on. Yes, check your audio. Okay, I'll come back to you while you try to fix the audio. I think I have someone else. Okay. Pingbi Odiwegu, you are welcome to the studio. Can you please unmute yourself and introduce yourself to our audience?
Thank you very much, comrade. Apologies for being a bit late, but my name is Pejino Dimwengu from Kenya. Yes, I'm a young politician and a presidential aspirant in the previous election in Kenya. Thank you.
Okay. What part of the continent are you joining us from today? Can you unmute yourself?
I am from Kenya.
Okay. Thank you so much, my brother, and it's good to have you.
You can hear me? I am.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure being here.
Yeah, thank you. I will come back to you again. I was just about bringing our other brother from Ghana to the studio so we can discuss the topic for today, the recent wave of coup in sub-Saharan Africa. It has called for concern, serious concern. I think he's still having some technical issue with his audio. So while we're waiting on him to come back, okay, I think he's back again. Let's see if I can bring him back to the studio. Hello, can you hear me now? No, we can't hear you.
Because the mic is working.
Okay, now we can hear you. I think it's your earphone. Take off the earphone. I think it's your earphone. No, take off the earphone. We still can't hear you, sir. I think maybe you should disconnect the wireless earphone you were using and probably speak directly to the phone. I think that might help. We still can hear you. Okay. Okay. Let me bring in another of our panelists while you sort that out. Honorable Mandodo, you are welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I'm trying to connect. I've realized that I've tampered with my Wi-Fi cable, so kindly bear with me as I'm trying to connect.
Okay, that's why you saw that out. I think I have another panelist. Let me bring him to the studio. Dr. Frederick, you are welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you. It's my pleasure being here. Hello, everyone.
How are you? How are you today?
I'm fine.
We have a full house today, from Kenya to Ghana to South Africa to Hungary. We have a full house today.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, thank you. Sir, Akiyaba, have you been able to sort out the audio problem from your end? We heard you a little bit earlier, but I think it has to do with your microphone. Anyway, let me just move on with the program. Dr. Frederick.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, this topic for today is the recent coup in Niger Republic. To what extent should other countries be involved? That would be my first question to you.
Well, thank you very much for having me. When you look at what is happening in Niger Republic today, you will see that the people are celebrating. Coup is not something that we welcome, but it could be acceptable as a last resort, especially when we have bad governance and governments that shoot their people because they are protesting. When people are protesting, they are doing you, the government, a favor because they are telling you what the problem is. But when you shoot them, it means you are not listening to them. You kill your own people for protesting. At the end of the day, the military comes in. You cannot blame them because the government is for the people. For example, look at what happened in Guinea in 2021. The president, Condé, extended the constitution, manipulated the constitution to extend or to elongate his tenure in office. Who does that? That was what Obasanjo wanted to do. And at the end of the day, the military came in. In the case of Niger Republic, you can see that the people are celebrating. Therefore, we should call on the international community not just to go there and destroy, kill the people, and in the name of trying to restore democracy. Where was ECOWAS? Where was the UN? Where was the US? Where was the European Union when things were going bad? Why did they not interfere when there was coup in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea? Why did they keep quiet? Where was ECOWAS? Now, if you look at the war in Ukraine, you will find out that the UN, the European Union, and the US, they are not directly involved. They have not gone there to do anything, though they support Ukraine remotely, but they did not go there to destroy. What did they do? They imposed sanctions. So if you could impose sanctions in Ukraine, you should also impose sanctions in Niger Republic. Because the idea of, oh, this is Europe, let us give them sanctions. Oh, this is Africa, let us support the war in Africa for the people to kill themselves. No. What have they done in Sudan? They just packed their embassies and they just closed their embassies, carried their staffs, and they left. Africa must wake up. Coup is a result of bad governance. Give us good governance in Africa, and coup will stop. So there must be a limit to this rascality that is going on from ECOWAS, because Tinubu wants to legitimize and seek relevance in the international front. So he wants to tell them that, okay, now a new sheriff is in town. He should slow it down. He should slow it down, because today Nigeria is paying life pension to former coup plotters like Babangida, Buhari, Gowon. They were coup plotters. You are paying them life pension till tomorrow, and you are going to Niger to interfere. So they must step with caution, and they must also realize that if you are planning for war, you must also plan to sustain the peace, because there will be an exodus of refugees from Niger Republic. Women and children may be killed in the process. So they must also make preparation. As you are making preparation for war, you must make preparation on how to receive refugees in your countries, ECOWAS. So that is something I just want to say. And in summary, I believe that sanctions is what the Niger Republic deserve, just like they are doing in Ukraine, not just going there to kill people because you want to show that there's a new sheriff in town. It's totally unacceptable. Two wrongs cannot make it right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you are just joining us on this program, where our topic for today is the coup in Niger Republic. To what extent should other countries be involved? I was hoping to have our very own father, one of the pioneer of when it comes to freedom in Africa, the person of Professor Patrick Lumumba. He was supposed to be also on this program today, but he wrote to me very late yesterday that he has another engagement, that is sincerely sorry, but he's going to make out time to come back to this program. However, let me move forward to the next person, the former presidential aspirant in Kenya, the Republic of Kenya, Pigbin Odemegu. The next question is for you, sir. To what extent should other countries be involved in the recent coup in the Republic of Niger?
Thank you. Greetings. Can you hear me?
Hear you loud and clear, sir.
Thank you very much. I'll say that there is what you call territorial integrity. The UN Charter clearly states that there's no country that should interfere with any other country's affairs. You don't have to get into any country's airspace, you see. Therefore, the issues of Niger either can only be discussed as either in ECOWAS level, as a diplomacy level, or the threats that ECOWAS is bringing towards invading the space of Niger should actually not be condoned, you see. It is the affairs of the people of Niger. And when Niger was underdeveloped, no country joined to solve the solution. They have their leadership, they have their structures, and their military. Let them solve their issues internally. Unless there's a high rate of civilians dead that now calls for internship wrangle between the military and the political level, no country should interfere. And if they have to interfere, let them come diplomatically and discuss it diplomatically outside Niger. But the attempts and the threats to send military to invade Niger is against the territorial integrity and against the wish and the will of people of Niger. It should be respected.
Thank you so much for your views. Let me also get the opinion of our very father from Republic of Ghana. Akiaba Adasebo, your views, sir. I hope your audio is working now. Can you hear me, sir?
He can disconnect and reconnect.
Yeah, I think you might have to disconnect and reconnect again. Let me go on straight to Honorable Mandodo. Honorable Mandodo, what's your thought on the recent coup in Niger Republic? I think you guys are having some. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, Your Excellency, I'm getting you loud and clear.
Oh, very good. Thank you. What's your opinion? To what extent should other countries be involved in the recent coup in the Niger Republic?
Thank you so much. Yes, as dignitaries, we have received email messages pertaining the coup that has happened in the Republic of Nigeria. So
no, Niger, not Nigeria, Niger.
Sorry. In Niger, yes, Your Excellency.
Yeah. It's almost similar, so, Niger, Nigeria.
Yes. First and foremost, I called a university lecturer, Brigadier General John Max. Then I said, Your Excellency, can you please unpack the coup discourse in Africa? So what the doctor said to me is that, you know what, a coup recently has been used as an alternative means to remove incumbents in power. So he said there are at least 4 ways of removing incumbents in power. The first one being impeachment. The second thing is being death. The third one being elections. And the fourth one being coups. So doctor said that elections has failed, and all these 3 alternatives is dismal failed in Africa. So in the elections, we have issues of vote rigging, issues of contested elections, vote buying. So he said that the reason why coups are rampant in the continent is that coups have delivered desired results than elections in the continent. So as a way to democratize the continent, as a way to proffer the democratic ethos in the continent, coups have been delivering better ways in the continent. So at this present juncture, that's why we are witnessing rampant coups in the continent. But it is quite questionable why coups, because at this present juncture, doctor said that the coups that are happening in the continent are a result of exogenous factors. That is, they are plethora of exogenous factors that are determining the coups in the continent. So he illustrated and extrapolated a number of exogenous factors soon after decolonization that have proffered coups in the continent. Let me just juxtapose.
Okay, my question to you was to what extent should other countries be involved in this recent coup? That's what I want you to explain to our audience. To what extent should they be involved?
Right. Thank you so much.
Just like our other brother already said that it's not advisable for other countries to be involved in other countries' internal affairs. But I just want to get your opinion. To what extent should they be involved?
Yes, I'm not a professor of international relations, but other African countries and regional bodies must intervene wherever where there's political mayhem and where political upheavals is not in favor of the citizens or is not in favor of the masses. But to our shock is that the African Union itself, we have been expecting the African Union to loudly to say this without ambiguity and equivocality that it is now going to intervene in Niger. But to some of us Pan-Africanists, we're aware that the African Union at this moment is polarized and polarized. So the hibernation of the African Union is not questionable. And it is to some extent causing this unquestionable political upheavals in the continent. So yeah, that is my take on that.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to come back to you again. If you are just joining us on this program, our topic for today, coup in Niger Republic, to what extent should other countries be involved? Share the program so other people can also be a part of this program for today. Dr. Frederick, the next question is for you. From your perspective, what might be the driving factor behind this recent coup in sub-Saharan Africa?
Well, if you look at the way the system is going about coup, it's all about bad governance, lust for power, and disrespect for the rule of law. Because if there is respect for the rule of law, people that are democratically elected into offices should be able to respect the Constitution. But today we now have presidents that defecate on the constitutions of their countries. The previous president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, we saw how he disobeyed as much as 50 court orders. When things like that begin to happen, you start to wonder why people in government should have the impunity. And you also find situations where some people, like, they are above the law. They do things and they get away with it, but some other persons will do it and they will be arrested and put in prison. So all of these things is because of the fact that the government does not respect the rule of law. There is corruption in governance, and there is a system also where they treat the people like the people are different. The people are like slaves in their own country, while a few persons are sharing the commonwealth of the country. So these are issues that ignites coup. Like I mentioned the case of Guinea, where Alpha Conde tried to manipulate the constitution to give him a third term in office. All of these things are very vexatious, and that is why people are angry and they're calling for coup. If we have good governance in Africa, every coup will stop. So as ECOWAS is talking about trying to invade Niger Republic, they must also call themselves to order and to ask themselves, what are we not doing well? What are we not doing well as leaders? Because it's a shame that in this modern, these years of technology, Africa is still where it is. Africa is too rich to be poor. Africa is too rich to borrow. Africa is too rich to beg.
Yes.
Africa is too rich to be insecure. And African leaders should tell all foreign troops in Africa to leave. Why should we be having foreign troops stationed in Africa? As I'm speaking to you now, we have 1,500 military forces from France stationed in Niger. What are they doing? Do you have people? Do you have the Nigerian armed forces in France? Do you have Nigerian forces in the US? Why should they be using Africa as a base? Why should they be using Africa as a base? Why are they putting their soldiers here? This is neo-colonialism. And this idea of African leaders not being confident in themselves, they want to invite foreign people to come and support them, We have the Wagner group from Russia. They are in several countries. They are in Libya. They are in Niger. They are in different countries already. What for? What for? We don't even need foreign investors in Africa. We have the natural resources in Africa. What we just need to do is to apply technology into our natural resources. We don't need them. So these are the things that we are seeing now, and you can see that the youths are very agitated because there's huge unemployment and poverty. You know, how can a country, for example, like Nigeria, be so blessed and so rich, yes, yet we have become the poverty capital of the world? It's an irony, and it's very annoying.
Thank you so much. My brother Pigbin, what's your take on that? Same question. From your perspective, what might be the driving factor behind the recent coup in sub-Saharan Africa? We want to hear your opinion. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, loud and clear.
That there are two causes for commotion in Africa. But you must first of all know at the back of our mind that Africa is at war. Africa is at war with herself.
I can hear you now.
Africa is at war with herself, but this war is for Africans. It's a war that is transported or either transferred in Africa. Imposing African leadership by the West. These puppet leaders serve as agents of the West in leadership in Africa. They are planted through fake democracy in the name of election that do not actually reflect the will of the people, or actually is being used as a cosmetic event in Africa. And therefore, the true will of the people are not being considered. Now, part of internal issues and causes of this issue of coups in Africa include: one is actually elections that are being held, but these elections do not respect the rule of law, neither do they respect the independence of judiciary. Through the court, and the court will have to decide what they want. Already the president is sitting. So do you think the court can remove a president sitting in a petition that's going on? It's impossible, you see. Then the West are so much concerned with our election. The West must stop interfering with the elections of Africa. Because this is not our minerals become the issue. You see, they are coming for our minerals, and you know very well that the uranium is in Niger, uranium is in Congo. You read the book called White Malice by Susan Williams. She explained how the CIA are trying to control our minerals in Africa. We are now trying to run away from the West, but we are going to hand or lead to the Wagner group of Russia. Africa has to look forward, as the words of Kwame Nkrumah. We are not looking west or looking east. We must look forward. So Western influence for our mineral is key issue for coups in Africa. Poor leadership and governance in Africa is another key issue, and Africans must correct it. We must actually correct the leadership. The young people are not having space to lead in Africa, and therefore coup become the only way, the cheapest way where people can change power. But the coup military leaders must also realize that after they gain power, the power must be transferred to the people, because the power belongs to the civilian, not the military. But the military are there to protect the nation, not the constitution. The president protects the constitution, the military protect the nation. So they cannot sit back and look at a president who is collaborating with the West to loot their country. Then they sit down and they be silent. They must act. And when they act, they are protecting their nation, and they must be respected for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. While we were just having the discourse, our brother is back again. Let me see if we can hear him now. Akiyaba, can you hear me now?
He's on mute. He's on
mute. Can you unmute yourself? Yeah, can you unmute yourself?
Can you unmute him?
Yeah, I tried to unmute him, but I'm unable to unmute him.
Because he dropped a message also that it is raining heavily there where he is, and that the connectivity is quite bad.
Can you unmute yourself? If you can hear me, just unmute yourself so I can. Okay. Anyway, let me move on. Let me move on to my brother, my Honorable Mandodo. Your input on the same question, please.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. It is not deniable that the causes of coups in the continent are exogenous causes. They are external causes. They are linked to. They are not linked to the continent, but they are outside impulses that are staging coups and political instability in our continent. So part of these exogenous factors include colonial legacy, especially that is the continuation of colonial prints in post-colonial Africa. So soon after decolonization, recent coups has been quite a number of coups has been recorded in Francophone nations. That is linked to the French or the Ineas hegemon of France in post-colonial countries that have liberated from France. So colonial legacy has been credited to much of the political instability and coups that have happened in the continent. But apart from colonial legacy, we have Cold War geopolitics. Cold War geopolitics, Francis Fukuyama in his book, The End of History, actually articulated a plethora of reasons on how Russia and United States in the Russo and US bipolarization caused political instability in the continent. So we have Cold War geopolitics, especially during the interwar period, that have resulted in a number of coups happening in the continent, and we have victims. Our leaders has been ousted from power.
Hello, can you hear
So the
me?
usurpation of power through the geopolitical issue has been extrapolated by historians. And also neocolonialism is extrapolated by my dear beloved brother. But also Kwame Nkrumah in his book actually stressed the point of neocolonialism in Africa. That neocolonialism is of utmost significance in terms of changing regimes in the continent. And this is also mentioned by Alex Quisson at the United Nations General Assembly in 1958. That neocolonialism is at play in the continent, and we have a number of presidents who have been ousted from power through the neocolonial end. Apart from neocolonialism, we have global war on terror. That is the United States foreign policy, which has been resulted in the disposition of power to much of our beloved brother who were at the helm of bureaucrats. So incumbents have been the victims due to the global war on terror, and you have witnessed the wave of Arab Spring in 2011, where we have our brother Muammar Gaddafi and political unrest in the Republic of Tunisia and a number of East African nations due to this American global war on terror. Yes, they are not fighting Al-Qaeda, they are not fighting Boko Haram, they are not fighting Al-Shabaab, but we all of us, we know that you cannot stop war using war. That is not.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and apart from this, we have also globalization, that is the asymmetrical reproduction of the IMF in the World Bank through the structural adjustment programs that we witnessed after the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1990, with the rise of Bretton Woods institutions with its one-size-fits-all policies that have happened in the downward spiral of the African economies. And that resulted only in coups in the continent due to issues related to economic stagnation and issues related to the downward spiral of the African economies at large. But apart from these exogenous factors, Your Excellency, we have internal causes linked to the issues of governance in Africa and leadership. And this can be extrapolated in a point that I called neo-patrimonialism. But this point can be...
Let me stop you. Let me stop you there for now, so I can bring our brother. He's having some technical glitches at his end, so he can also weigh in on our discussion. Akiyaba, sir, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Yeah, I think well, I heard you a few minutes ago, but yeah. Anyway, let me move on. Let me move on. My next question is for you, Pigbin. What lesson should other leaders in sub-Saharan West Africa derive from this recent occurrence of coup in their neighboring countries? Mr. Pigman, the question is for you. Can you please, yeah. Oh, I think it's having. Hello, Akiyaba, can you hear me? Okay, anyway, let's move on. You can take the question, Honorable Madudu. What lessons should other leaders in sub-Saharan West Africa, sub-Saharan Africa drive from this recent occurrence of coups in their neighboring country? What lessons should they learn?
Lessons are that they must not monopolize power, number one. This lesson number two, they must, upon the usurpation of power or upon the taking of the oath of office, they must not capture the state. You know, the issues of corruption, cronyism, and the patronage have been on the center of African bureaucracies. So they must do away with the state capture. Point number three, they must be transparent in terms of not extending terms of offices. Because we are victims of dictatorship. So they must democratize the space. The space must be democratic enough. So we are tired of secocratic states in the continent. We are tired of banana republics. So they must take the point that democracy actually can work in the continent of Africa. Yes, we are not copying and pasting the American version of democracy, but we have our own democratic norms, values, and ethos. So the incumbents that are in power, they must also realize that citizens must be respected. Point number three, they must respect the minority, because the minority has been marginalized in African politics. So they must also cater to incorporate the minority in decision-making and also in public services affairs. Was also the issues of minority groups with issues of tribal supremacy. Yes, and also they must also retire. Because I'm sure I will not be accused of treason in the Republic of Uganda. Because we are tired of aging leaders in the continent. It's also coined by political scientists as gerontocratic regimes in Africa. Yes, in Africa it is where we have aging leaders in the continent of Africa, other than other continents in the world. Parts of Canada and parts of the United States. You know, His Excellency Barack Obama retired at the age of 54. So, but currently in the Republic of Africa, with Paul Biya in Cameroon, is using all sorts of dictatorial tendencies to extend his tenure of office. We have also Costa in Sao Tome and also in Guinea, we have His Excellency Alpha Conde. And also with others in Ivory Coast, not mentioning my dear brother in East Africa, M7. So we are tired of politics without doom. We are tired of aging leaders. Yeah. In the constitution, I've perused the constitution that you must not attain office at the of the presidency at the age of 40. But they've also forgotten to put the climax, that is at the age of 75 years, where civil servants retiring at the age of 75 is due to issues of incapability. But the most important office, that is the office of the president, we have His Excellency Tinubu in power, but we have youth like His Excellency Peter Obi. So that one alone must be respected also. And also the issues of religion. But we know the issues of religion up to Marx, religion has been regarded as the opium of the society. So we have got heterogeneous religious groups in the continent. We've got also, apart from being Islam, Christianity, and other African traditional religions, but we must also be versatile in terms of also accepting religion in African states. And also, let's stop
Honorable Madodo, let me stop you there, because if I give you all the time, you can speak for 2 hours. That I know. My brother Pigbin, the same question for you. What lessons should other leaders in Sub-Saharan Africa drive from these recent occurrences of coup in their neighboring countries?
Thank you, comrade. The lesson they must learn that they must be prepared to pack and go. If they have stayed for long, or if they have actually not developed their countries, they must be prepared for that. They must also learn that the people are not ready to trust the cosmetic democracy ballot system. As Malcolm X says, it's either ballot or bullet. So because they have dominated the ballot, it's now the people have to use any means necessary. So they must be prepared. But another thing is that they must look into themselves, deeply into themselves, before they start condemning Niger. Let them look deep into themselves and work for the people as that promise. But if they are going to continue to work for the West and act as puppets, the days are numbered. And the second thing that should be very clear to them is that, especially what my brother said on the age of candidacy, there should be nothing like age for candidacy. Like in Kenya, if you're age 18, I was 26 when I was running for presidency, I was allowed to run for the presidency. Why do you have to put age limit for somebody to run for presidency, but that age allow him to elect a president? So he's not mature to be a president, but he's mature to elect a mature president. That thing must be challenged, you see. So another thing is very clear. Stop prolonging your terms. We know the presidents in Africa who have prolonged their terms. They are unsafe to leave power because they have looted a lot. And the only security they have is to stay in power until they die. Even if they die, will go after their graves, and they must return back everything that's stolen from the people, and they must be prepared to serve the people. The last thing I have to say is that it is very clear to the West, even those in the West who are using Africa, that Africa has reached a climax, that it is ready to liberate itself by all means necessary. In the book of Kwame Nkrumah, Handbook for Revolutionary Warfare, Africa is looking towards liberating themselves from the West, and the best the West can do is to stop interfering with African affairs. Take away your bases to where you want it to be. We are not your citizens to protect. We have the army that can protect us. Go protect your people where you can protect them. Our mineral in Africa must also still to retain in Africa, and we must learn that, because sooner or later, the people will act. And when they act, I hope that let the military act on the behalf of Africans. Let them not act on the behalf of the puppet powers from the West, because that one will not benefit Africans. But another thing, surely, I want to ask you one question. African leaders have stayed in power for longer. For example, in Uganda, they have a president that has stayed close to 38 years. Has that made Uganda more developed than other Western countries that only have 2 terms? Have it made them more developed? Why do you need to be in power for 30 years? What do you want to do for people if you cannot do it for 10 years? You just have to go. Somebody else can do it. So that's the clear lesson I have to tell them. Let them prepare to pack their things and go, or they give leadership as they are elected to do it. We must do it on all means necessary. All means necessary. That's what I was to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Frederick, your opinion on that as well. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, please.
Okay. The question is, what do we need?
No,
What
what
do
lesson? What no no?
Africans-
What lesson
what
should other leaders in sub-Saharan Africa derive from these recent occurrences of coup in their
yes,
neighboring countries?
yes. What do we need to learn from this coup that is happening? When you contest for election, you give the people manifesto, and some of them even print 80 pages, 90 pages of manifesto. For you to be a president, it is a huge privilege. God has given you the grace to lead your people. The lives and the prosperity of your people, women, children, they are in your hands. And it's not something you should toy with. So when you have a manifesto and you have been sworn into office, you must paste your manifesto on the wall of your office. And for any of the items that you have achieved, you tick it. You achieve manifesto B, you tick it. You achieve manifesto 3, you tick it. By the time you start to fulfill your promises one by one, your people will be feeling it. They will see it. And there will be no need for people to protest or for coup to take place, but they see that you are doing what you promise. So these people, they come into government, immediately they take the oath of office, their brains will change. So you start to wonder, is there an evil spirit in some of these government houses that is turning the brains of these people? I don't understand. How can a normal person steal public money and you not take the money to another country, the same countries that colonized you? That is second slavery. How can presidents in Africa be dying in foreign hospitals and they are bringing their corpses back to Africa to bury them as if Africa is a cemetery? In fact, when African leaders die abroad, they should bury them abroad. So these are the things I believe that they should do. The lessons they should learn is that they should match action with manifesto. It's not about giving manifestos to people. Honorable Mandodo has highlighted some of the points, fight corruption, give good governance. These are the things that I think we need, because the exploitation of foreigners to Africa, especially the Chinese, in fact, most of these foreigners, is too much. In 2019, 17 Chinese were arrested in Osun State of Nigeria for illegal gold mining. Now we're in 2023. They were not taken to court for prosecution. Why? Because they connive with the local authorities. We are the ones that allow these things to happen. These people will come to Zamfara State in Nigeria and they will steal the gold and they leave weapons behind for Africans to kill themselves. Most of those places we have crisis today is because people are stealing our natural resources as Africans and the government is cooperating with them. They steal our natural resources and they leave guns behind for us to kill ourselves because they believe that a peaceful environment will not give them the opportunity to steal our resources. For how long shall we allow foreigners to be coming to Africa to steal our resources? Can you go to China, for example, to steal their natural resources? They will kill you before taking you to court. The people themselves will kill you before taking you to court. They'll take your corpse to the court to come and witness against yourself. But how do we allow these people to come? And when they will come to Africa, we give them police escorts, we give them soldiers protecting them, people who are just mechanics or tailors in China. They come to Africa, they behave like demigods. It's very embarrassing because when you look at the way many of us that live in Europe, when they see us, when these Europeans they see us, they have no respect for us. Why? Because in their mind they think that, oh, Africans, they have everything, but they don't have the wisdom to harness their natural resources. They think we don't have the wisdom. So At this age, after many years of colonialism, we are still where we are in Africa. People are having different problems in Africa, different countries. There is no one African country that is supposed to be poor, because we have all the natural resources, all the raw materials they use in Europe. 70% are coming from Africa. So why can we not apply technology to harness our natural resources? It's quite shameful, and I quite agree with Mandondo that these people that are too old in office, if the retirement age of a high court judge or a school teacher is 65, it also means that nobody must be a president after the person is 65. Nobody should be a senator in the parliament when the person is already 65. There must be also a retirement age for leaders, because we cannot be having the Senate and the presidency like a playground for retired people. So that, I think, is what we should do. And finally, African youths must begin to come together, because the leaders before us, they have failed. We must begin to have networking of youths from different African countries coming together to form a force that will drive Africa to the Africa of our collective dreams. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Mr. Akiyaba, can you unmute yourself and let's see if we can hear you? Just unmute yourself. We still can hear you.
In case you are hearing us, just click on the microphone icon.
Click on the microphone icon, then you'll be able to unmute yourself.
Fine,
Yeah,
you have
now,
just done that.
Hello.
Okay. Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Hallelujah.
Well.
Hallelujah.
We can hear you, sir.
Okay.
Okay. I would love to get your opinion on the recent
I'm very
coup.
sorry. I'm very sorry for the technical problem.
Yeah. Could you please introduce yourself to our audience and what part of the continent of Africa you are joining us from today? For those of them that just joined the show, so they'll be able to know who is speaking directly to them today. I think the network issue in this.
Hold on, Prince. Let him try to arrange himself.
Can you?
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Yeah,
is happening.
I can hear you.
I don't know.
We can hear you. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead, sir.
I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
We can hear you.
Right, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Just go ahead. Yes. Introduce yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
We are hearing you.
We can hear you.
It's unfortunate. I'm very sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
What I see as happening, can you hear me now?
We can hear you, sir.
We can hear you. Just continue talking, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
It's breaking. It's breaking.
No, we can just continue.
If you
we can
hear
hear
me or not, I'll try and speak. I'm quite disappointed with my generation. It's my generation that has messed up Africa. My generation. Can you hear me?
Just continue speaking if you can hear me.
I'm quite sorry. Yes, my generation has messed up Africa. My generation, particularly the generation that the Nkrumah generation brought up, educated us, sent us to the best universities across the world. And we have been in power since the 1980s. And what we have done is very distressful. So what is happening in the Sahel region. I call it the Arikana, Dr. Arikana Chimbohor Kwao of the ADD. She was the one who's up because of the situation in Haiti. She drew the attention of the Pan-African world to how Haiti has unjustly been brutalized by French. The French has exploited Haiti. And this generated a lot of concern in the Pan-African world, and particularly in the French territories. So what is happening, it is what Arikana has fired up. Her outbursts and explanations and clarity of thought and presentations opened the eyes of Francophone Africa to what France has done to their countries. So this, what is happening in Burkina Faso and Niger is a reaction to French domination, French exploitation. People have woken up to what the French have done. So we have, particularly the young ones, to support the of ourselves, our minds, by the former colonial masters who see Africa, what happened in Guinea, kicked them out, and even telephone wires and everything, they removed everything. Ghana had to.
I think he's having some technical glitches from his end. Anyway, let me move on to the last question on my list here today. If you are just joining us, our topic for today: coup in Niger Republic. To what extent should other countries be involved? That is our discussion for today. My last question goes to you, Pigben. Considering the increased prevalences of military interventions, what is the most viable path forward for African continent?
Thank you very much for that question. First, we must learn that the military of Africa are not trained by Africans. The military of African majority are trained and funded by either US or East. And therefore, it is somehow worrying if the military take control, because maybe they are taking control based on the command of their training. And this has bring an issue. The military officer who did the coup in Mali was trained by the US. And therefore, first thing is, why should our military officers be trained outside Africa? And what happens when they're trained outside Africa, and why should they be funded and facilitated for that purposes? For example, in Kenya, I'm getting information that part of the military are still being paid by the Britain. Why should African military be paid by external forces and trained externally? So that is the first thing that must be stopped. African military must be trained in Africa and paid by African governments. Another thing that is so worrying is that the military have managed, of course, to overthrow the dictators, but they have failed to turn power over to the civilian. The military are only there to protect the nation. They're not there to lead the nation.
So when the political class goes overboard, of course, the military can act and come in like what they have done in Burkina Faso and in Niger. But after doing this, they should bring back the leadership to the people. What has happened in South Sudan, the military have held the power up to date, and now the military are fighting for power that is supposed to go back to the civilian. Africa must be led by the civilian, not the military. But the military have the mandate to intervene in case the country is overexploited. So that also must be a message that we must send out. As much as the military intervene to overthrow the puppets, they must ensure that there's a transitional government, that the people must take back the power. The wake-up call to the people is that the people must now think critically on which leaders do they elect, on what basis, and they must hold their leaders accountable at the best level possible. And to the leaders, they must know one thing, that you cannot overrule the people. You must serve the people, leave the people, and listen to the people. And no matter how many years you try to actually dictate on the people, and of course exploit the resources of the country, the military will come in. This is a clear message to every president. The military are now awake. They will come in for you in any time you try to change a country to be your personal property. But the presidents must serve the leadership. The term limit must be reintroduced. AU must force all African nations to introduce term limit. Serve 2 terms, go away. And this puppet and let us observe our elections and conduct our elections. Non-interference to African affairs will help us, but Africans must also organize. I'm planning, of course, part of my plan as a Pan-African plan, we are bringing up Pan-African servant leaders, young people like myself who can have the ability and even dare to be the presidents of their country, to come out now so that we can train them in Pan-African leadership. What are Pan-African doing about the young people? The West are taking our young people for the leadership training in the West to train them and sponsor them so that they can be the next puppet leaders of Africa. The Pan-Africans are only making chat and relax. Pan-Africans must actually start preparing the young people like myself for the next leadership of Africa. Pan-Africans must actually invest their resources to support Africa. We don't need IMF. Africans in diaspora and Africa in African can invest their money in one bank that can support African affairs, and African leaders can borrow from that. Why do we need IMF and World Bank? We have a lot of resources and wealth. Let's come up as Pan-African. Let's invest our resources and our time to the liberation of Africa. Because those who are colonizing us are investing their time and the resources to continue colonizing us because they know the value they get out of it. They exploit our resources. So let us come back and talk of actions. Let's invest our time. Let's prepare for the Pan-African gospel and for the Pan-African leadership moving forward. Let's support young people across the continent and let's build them and mentor them in Pan-African way because they're the future of Africa. If we don't do that, we are going to miss the Africa we desire. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Dr. Frederick, your opinion on that, sir? Unmute yourself.
Okay, I just want to say that what we should do is that we must begin to reappraise our electioneering systems. Elections are the cornerstones of democracy. We must take our elections very seriously. We should not give rooms for election rigging. And most of the rigging of the elections are coming from the youths. The youths are the ones that steal ballot boxes. The youths are the ones that will thumbprint multiple times for their oppressors. All of these things must stop. So we must begin to reorientate our youths that they are the leaders of tomorrow. And they must take elections very seriously. People that are rigging elections should be disgraced. The last election that was held in Nigeria, we know that it was rigged. So that is why people like us, we don't accept that the election is concluded. It's not yet concluded. So we're waiting for what the tribunal will say. Because it's a shame, for example, there is an ongoing nomination of ministers for Nigeria. Somebody that was nominated, his name is Nasir El-Rufai. He was a minister in Nigeria 20 years ago. Then he became a governor. Now, They have nominated him again to be a minister after 7-8 years as a governor in a population of 220 million people. What are the youths doing? Take back your country. Anywhere you are in Africa, the country is your commonwealth. Take it back. Enough of this old brigade. So the conclusion here is that we must take elections very seriously. And when it's election time, we must make sure that we do everything to prevent elections. And people that are rigging elections, they should also know that the consequences, elections have consequences. And after elections, everybody suffers, despite your religion, despite your age, despite your social status, everybody suffers. So that is what I think we should do. Take elections seriously so that we don't have people that are being recycled coming back into the system. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful explanation. Honorable Mandodo, same question, but I also want you to use the opportunity as your closing remark. You can just add your closing remark to it.
Thank you so much, Your Excellence, for giving me this opportunity to usher in my parting shots or final beginnings to this discussion. Right, as the other colleagues have alluded, surely, Your Excellence, let's say Abasha dictatorship. Let's say go out with the banana republics in the continent of Africa. We are tired of securocratic states. We are tired of contested elections. We are tired of vote rigging and vote buying. So we are saying down with the despotism in our continent. At this present juncture, I'm also calling for the depoliticization of the military and also for the demilitarization of politics. Politics have been politicized, Your Excellence. So let's depoliticize the military. The army must go back to barracks. As His Excellency Tinubu said in a Sunday summit. So let us also dealing and decolonize and deneocolonize our continent. We know we are linked to the United States, where the Russia-Africa summit were linked to the East. So let us dealing ourselves from this, because we are having Russians coming to observe elections in the Republic of Zimbabwe, but we know you and know that there are no elections in Russia. We're having Chinese coming as election observers, but there in Beijing they do not have elections. So let's dealing ourselves. Let us not. Let's dealing ourselves from the IMF and the World Bank, because we know they are able to finance dictatorship in Mexico. They can finance dictatorship in Uganda or what else in other parts of Africa. And also, they are also financing what we call paramilitary organizations, because the paramilitary groups have been responsible for coups that has been ravening the African continent. And also, let us claim the African Union. The African Union at this present juncture is polarized and paralyzed. So the hibernation of the African Union is at the center of our problems. The African Union is just a toothless bulldog. So let's claim the African Union. It's now, it is just like a collection of securocratic leaders. It is just like, if you look at the leadership at the AU, even the bench at the African Union, the leaders, we are disgruntled by the African Union. It is just a group of aging dictators there just to save their self-interests. So let's reclaim the African Union. The African Union is doing nothing at this present juncture. And the bloated bureaucrats, because if you see the membership of the African Union, it is just it is bloated with heads of states, rather than there are no policymakers, and also lecturers are marginalized to be in that caucus. So let us also not look east, west, or north. As Kwame Nkrumah said, Africa must not look east to China, Russia, and East African tigers. Africa must also not look policies or any other aid from Washington, even from New York and Berlin. But Kwame Nkrumah said Africa must look forward. We must also not look backward. We must not use colonialism and slavery as stumbling blocks to our development, but we must look forward. We must have the ideological and the roadmap. What we are seeing, Agenda 50 to 2063 is far much, and it's also a hallucination. I'm baffled to talk about the Agenda 2063. Let's have agendas that are attainable, so that they will not be a pipe dream in the long run.
Thank you so much, my brother. I might have to cut in there due to we are already out of time. Let me give the floor to Mr. Pigman. Can we have your closing remark, please?
Thank you very much, comrade. I'll say that thank you for this opportunity, but we must be realizing that we at a certain point now as Africa, that we must say actually no to colonialism. Whatever is happening in Africa, because if you see another country in Africa want to send their military to fight other Africans and to kill them just for one person to survive in power, is very actually disheartening. And therefore, let's actually liberate Africa. Africa is not liberated. As the words of Kwame Nkrumah, Africa must be liberated, must be united, and must be liberated. The only solution to Africa's stability is a united nations of Africa, a united government for Africa that will make Africa one unit. And therefore, to all Africans wherever we are, let's continue fighting to actually remove the colonial boundaries and the colonial mentality and puppets from Africa. But let's work together towards making Africa great. It's time for actions, no more talks. It's time for action to liberate Africa and develop Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Frederick, your closing remark, please.
Well, just like I said, youths arise, take elections seriously. Let us begin to coordinate ourselves within our countries and across our national boundaries. And I believe that if we are steadfast, we keep talking. If you have opportunity to write. If you have opportunity to speak, to do video, thank God for the social media, do your videos. You might think that people are not listening to you, but the fact is that one day your spoken words will materialize into action. I really hope that the host will share this video amongst the panelists so that they can share within their countries, because Africa has to take it back. Africa is too blessed to be poor. It's shameful that we are borrowing. It's shameful that they talk about disease, they talk about Africa. It's shameful that we allow thieves to come to our countries to exploit our natural resources. The time has come to say no.
Thank you so much. I want to personally appreciate every one that has taken out the time to be a part of this program today. In the words of Kwame Nkrumah, on the 6th of March 1957, when Ghana had their independence, Kwame Nkrumah said, Ghana is not free until Nigeria is free. Africa, almost 40 years later, we are still not free. In the words of the Burkina Faso military commander, Ibrahim Traoré, my generation does not understand this. How can Africa, which has so much wealth, become the poorest continent in the world today? And why do African leaders travel abroad to beg? My brothers and sisters, on this note, I'm going to close the program, and I look forward to another wonderful program again next week, same time, same place. Until then, remain blessed.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.